Oh my gosh. I love the Lego Batman movie. I'm glad we get to talk about it today because it is my favorite of the four main Lego movies that have been released. It's a really good movie, and I feel like it gets downplayed a lot because it is funny, and it's probably the funniest of the four movies. But it's also just a really good movie in general. It's heartwarming. It's got a lot of love for Batman as a character. I highly recommend you go see it if you haven't. I am going to be spoiling the entire movie. So if you haven't watched it, or it's just been a while, please go watch it. But there's not a lot that I can really say to introduce it. It's just a good, funny movie. So I guess let's just go to the wall. The movie starts off with a fun little narration from Batman before we get into the real action. This is a sword I got, I don't remember when, but it's a Batman katana, so I'm gonna use it. When the movie actually starts off, the Joker is trying to take over Gotham with the help of the bad guys. This is all of Batman's villains, right? So, Joker using the bad guys to help take over Gotham, but Batman stops them. And then we get a little fun little interaction. Joker has set a bomb with the help of all of Batman's bad guys, and he gives Batman a little ultimatum. The Joker, Batman's greatest villain, or the city. Batman takes issue with this dilemma because it involves claiming that the Joker is Batman's greatest villain. The Batman in this movie is outright opposed to having a relationship with anyone. He says to Joker, "You mean nothing to me. No one does." So Batman lets the Joker go and disarms the bomb. He manages to save the city because he doesn't care about the Joker. So after saving the city, Batman goes back to Wayne Manor, and we get this really cool scene where Batman is made really small in the composition of Wayne Manor, this large, empty, quiet mansion, right? And he's all very alone, and it's very small. There's no music. Someone should write something on that because I would read it because it's really interesting, but I don't know what I'm talking about. But it's just really cool. Then we get a scene with Alfred where we really get to see just how emotionally immature Batman is, right? There's some interaction between them, and he's just kind of the whole time behaving like a full-on child that has never grown up. We then get to see Bruce, not Batman, go to an event where we meet Barbara Gordon. Barbara Gordon is going to be the new police commissioner, and Bruce, not Batman, is completely infatuated with her. So much so that he accidentally adopts a child. So Barbara has a speech at this event where she basically tells her plans with what she wants to do with Batman. Here's the thing though, Barbara thinks that Batman is ineffective, right? She's not a huge fan. She likes him, she respects him, but the legality of the whole vigilante thing, she's not too thrilled about, right? So she wants Batman working with the police. She wants to, kind of pull in the reins on him, right? Try to work with him so that there's not just some masked guy running around beating up criminals. Pretty reasonable. Batman's not too thrilled with it, but we don't get a lot of time to really delve into the emotions because, bad guys and Joker are attacking this event, right? We get a really cool scene where we see that Barbara is very competent, right? She's fending off bad guys far before Bruce can even suit up to be Batman and fight them. Very cool, and then we get Bruce or Batman and Barbara fighting alongside. Very fun. But then the Joker surrenders. So the Joker surrenders, and then he says that all of the bad guys surrender. He's clearly up to something, but he gives the excuse that there's no reason for him to continue to commit crime anymore because there is no Batman and Joker. His whole motivation is to be the Joker to Batman, but there is no Batman and Joker. And so Batman is rejecting Joker, and so Joker's lost all interest in crime fighting. But we know he's up to something. But in the meantime, there's no crime. There's no more bad guys. There's no more crime. So Batman goes back to the Batcave, and he's really bored, and he really wants to do something. So he's trying to find ways to maybe get to the Phantom Zone, to try to put the Joker in the Phantom Zone. Alfred comes up to him while he's doing this and basically forces him to spend time with his adopted son that he has not met before, that he doesn't remember adopting. So this is where we get to see like Bruce meet Dick. It's pretty fun. And then Bruce immediately just takes this child on a very dangerous mission to try to, steal the Phantom Zone projector from the Fortress of Solitude, which he knows is dangerous. He knows that it's dangerous, and he doesn't know that Dick is like an acrobat and like super skilled and stuff. So like, yeah, he fully could have killed this kid. Anyway, they go to the Fortress of Solitude, and Batman sends Robin into a vent to try to steal the projector, while Batman goes through the front door, only to discover that the entire Justice League is having a party without him, because he's a jerk, and they don't want to spend time with him. Then we have a fun scene of like Robin doing all his acrobatic stuff to get to the projector, and Batman like being really impressed and having fun, and Batman says something really interesting that I'm going to have to read out. Watching you out there, it was like the world wasn't all darkness anymore. For a brief moment, I could have sworn I felt something. I'm super proud of myself for being such a good teacher. So, Batman and Robin go to Arkham Asylum with the projector in the hopes of sneaking in and sending the Joker to the Phantom Zone. But Barbara catches them. So they have to fight their way to the Joker, because obviously she's not too thrilled with him sending a criminal that's supposed to be in jail to another dimension. But of course that doesn't really stop them, and they manage to get to the Joker. So they put the Joker in the Phantom Zone after some witty little banter about how the Joker's Batman's greatest enemy. But Barbara's not too happy with this, because they committed a crime. And so she locks Batman and Robin up in Arkham Asylum because they committed a crime. I mean, he's a child, but still, they did commit a crime, that's fair. Then we cut to the Phantom Zone with the Joker. And Joker meets all of the worst villains, right? The Daleks, the Eye of Sauron, King Kong, Godzilla, the Gremlins. And these are who we will refer to as the badder guys, right? So we got the badder guys and we got the bad guys, right? And so the Joker is in the Phantom Zone with the badder guys. And what Joker does is he manages to convince the badder guys to escape with him so that they can all wreak havoc on Gotham. It's got to be somewhat even if it's not even in the frame. It's got to be Anyway, how do they escape? Well, Harley Quinn, one of the bad guys, didn't actually go to Arkham with the rest of the bad guys. Why didn't I mention it? Because I forgot. So she manages to find and steal the Phantom Zone projector, and she frees all the bad guys. And they start completely wreaking havoc on Gotham, but Batman isn't there to stop them because he's in Arkham. Then we cut back to Arkham, to prison, where we see Batman and Robin, and we have a cute little scene where Robin's scared, and then Batman has to reassure him, right? So maybe some hints that he's not that bad. Barbara then comes down to the cell, and she catches him up, and she's like, "Hey, I'll let you out, right? I'll let you out if you don't do this alone. Because we need you to save us. But you can't do it alone." And so, Batman, Robin, Barbara, and Alfred all move out together. Right? We have some fun action. I know what you're thinking. Why is Alfred here? But anyway, we have some fun action showing the four of them fighting all the badder guys, and they defeat a couple of them. And then we get some really fun stuff. They take a picture together, right? Batman compliments everyone, and then they take a picture together. But the issue is that the picture looks a lot like a picture of Batman and his parents, or Bruce and his parents, from when he was a child. Because he remembers his parents, because he remembers how he lost them, and he's finally, accepting that he likes these people, he traps them and sends them away so that they don't get hurt. So then, Batman, alone, goes to encounter the Joker, right? Problem is, all of the badder guys are also there. And so they surround Batman, and they surround Joker, and so that way he's got no escape. And the Joker tries to have like an intervention with Batman to tell him, hey, you hurt my feelings. I hate you. But Batman can't say I hate you back. So Batman gets sent to the Phantom Zone. And so, Batman in the Phantom Zone encounters. This is Phyllis. Everyone say hi, Phyllis. She's like the warden, and she's a robot. And so she scans Batman, and she's like, that's not Batman. She scans Batman, and she's trying to figure out whether or not he's a good guy or a bad guy. And we get the emotional climax of the movie where she scans him and he sees all the bad things he's done, but she says he's not a traditional bad guy, but he's not a good guy either. And so, Batman, in the Phantom Zone, right, still with Phyllis, he sees the projections, and he sees Alfred, Barbara, and Robin. And they manage to escape, and they manage to try to fight their way back to save Batman. But while they're doing this, Robin gets separated from the two of them. He finds his way to the Batcave, and he asks himself the question, what would Batman do? And the answer he finds is, and I quote, "Not listen to anyone else, be mean to people, destroy as much property as possible, talk in a really low, gravelly voice, and go it alone." Batman has to go back and save them. Phyllis agrees on the condition that he sends back all of the bad guys with him when he goes. And so, Batman emerges triumphantly from the Phantom Zone. So, Batman has to go back and save them, but obviously Phyllis is not the most thrilled with this idea. I mean, sending back one of the guys that she's in charge of, not really her job. Her job is to protect them and make sure that they don't escape. And so Batman has to go back and try to save the three of them. But Phyllis only agrees on the condition that he sends all... Oh my gosh. This is why I'm a cat person. Alright. The only issue, Barbara's mad at him. Justifiably so. I mean, he trapped her, and he, left her, abandoned her. So Batman is forced to apologize, but he can't bring himself to say the word sorry. Then, just as she's walking away, just as she's giving up, he confesses that he was afraid. He was afraid of losing them. And he reveals that he has bat signals for all of them. And all of the bad guys. See, when the Joker returned with all the badder guys, he left all of the bad guys in Arkham. He left them in prison. He abandoned them. So, they're not too happy with him, right? Because they weren't even in on the plan with Joker in the beginning. They weren't even in on it in the beginning. Right? When they went to attack that thing, they were all surprised when he surrendered, and he said that they all surrendered. And so him coming back after that, with a bunch of new friends, they're not too happy with him. So they agree to fight alongside Batman and the Bat Family, so that they can take down Joker, because he sucked. He did exactly what Batman did. And what follows is a pretty epic action scene. After they all suit up, Batman, Alfred, Barbara, and Robin all fight the badder guys with the help of the bad guys. But things go poorly when the bomb that Joker had set blows up. See, Gotham is built on, like, effectively thin plates that are, like, held together, and so the minute that, like, the bomb goes off, they're gonna separate. Here, right? It's almost like they're made out of Lego, right? So this is like how Gotham is laid out, right? And there's an endless void beneath them. So the minute that the bomb explodes, right, the plates are separated. They're flimsy, right? They separate further, and there's an endless void beneath them. Anyway, but Batman has a plan. If they can bridge across, like, with their bodies and hold the two sides together, they can click the plates together, right? The only issue is that the gap is getting too wide. There's not enough people. But Joker and all the badder guys are on the other side. If he could just reach out to Joker, he'd be able to save Gotham. So what does Batman do? Well, he yells over to Joker, and he tells him about how Joker has motivated Batman all these years. How Joker's the reason that Batman gets up and lifts weights. How he's the reason that he does what he does. And if it wasn't for Joker, Batman never would have realized how connected he was with these people. And he says, if you help me save Gotham, you'll help me save us. So Joker agrees. They bridge across, they connect, and they click Gotham together with the power of friendship and abs. I love this movie. And then, of course, Batman confesses his feelings to Joker. He says, I hate you. Things are great. The day's saved. Except for one issue. Batman made a promise to Phyllis. A promise that he would return all of the bad guys. All of the bad guys includes Batman. He zaps himself with the Phantom Zone projector after a touching moment. After they all say goodbye to him, he rises up to the sky, and then Phyllis tells him that she can't accept him. Because the Phantom Zone is for bad guys, and Batman is a good guy. I mean, come on. How can you not love this movie? That's great, that's beautiful, that's perfect. After that, we get the mirror to the scene at the beginning in Wayne Manor. Except this time, Batman's not alone. This time, he's got his family with him. And we wrap up with a Batman monologue voiceover. Same as there was in the beginning. Except this time, he's not alone. I mean, come on, guys. Like, this is just a good movie. Like, it's just a good movie. Right? I love this movie. This movie is great. Now let's talk about character arcs. Specifically Batman. So Batman's arc is really just, to learn how to be in a relationship, to let people in, to feel again. He's obviously very scared of relationships, and we see that early on. No matter what kind of relationship it is, whether it's like a like a positive one or even enemies. But I mean, part of this is how that hurts others, right? Batman really hurts Joker when he can't say that there is a them, that there is a Batman in Joker, right? And we see how miserable it makes Batman, because although he seems happy, he pretends he's happy, we see how small he is in the composition of the frame. We see how alone he is. We really get to sit with that loneliness. We see how emotionally immature Batman is. The conversation between Alfred and Batman is not one of two well-adjusted adults. Batman literally says he feels nothing but rage. Then we see that the only thing that Batman really cares about is threatened, and that's Batman. Barbara threatens Batman's existence, right? We see a peek into this. She doesn't really, but she threatens the way that Batman thinks he should exist. She threatens Bruce's idea of Batman. And then the Joker and all the bad guys, they come and surrender. There's no more crime. With no more crime, there's no more Batman. Then he finds out about Dick, a child he accidentally adopted. And he fully sends him somewhere that he knows could be dead. This is a child. But through Dick, through Robin, we see the walls start to break down a little bit. When they go to the Fortress of Solitude, Batman's happy. He's proud of Robin, although he struggles to admit it. Like, this is clearly the walls starting to break down. This is clearly good for him. This is progress. It's not a lot of progress, but it is progress in his arc, in his life. To skip forward, Batman agrees to fight alongside Alfred, Barbara, and Robin. But let's be real. He was really just forced into it. It wasn't really a willing thing that he did. It was a reluctant agreement. He accepted, but not because he wanted to. He accepted because he had to. But this is a point of growth for him. This is good for him. Through this, he ends up seeing that he actually does care about these three. But he's not all better because of that. His problems lie outside of the fact that he just couldn't accept that he cared about people. His problems lie in the fact that he doesn't know how to care about people. He misunderstands what to do with that care. That's why he abandons them. Because he genuinely thinks he's doing what's right. He thinks that this is how relationships work. He doesn't want to lose them. He still has a long way to grow. And it's clear when he has his interaction with Joker. Because he's still incapable of admitting that he hates the Joker. He can't do it. Yes, he was finally starting to accept that he does care about these three. But he's not all there. Then the biggest thing happens to him. He is sent to the Phantom Zone, and he is put face to face with the hurt that he's caused people. He is forced to literally watch it. And through this, he was able to understand. He was able to understand others in a way that he hadn't before. This is what changed. Acknowledging that he cares about others is one thing, but acknowledging that he hurt others is a whole other thing. One that we see him actively struggle with. He can't bring himself to say sorry to Barbara. The word literally doesn't come out of his mouth. But then, he admits that he was afraid. He might not be there to fully say the words, "I'm sorry," but he was able to express that he was. He tells her the truth. And then, he tells Joker the truth. He tells Joker that he cares about him. That he hates him. How much the Joker means to him. But the final pin, the final point in this arc, is him accepting responsibility. He chooses to go back to the Phantom Zone because he accepts that he's a bad guy. He accepts that he hurt others. He accepts that he's done awful things. But he's not a bad guy anymore. Because a bad guy would never accept that he was a bad guy. He's changed. And I think that's really, really cool. What's interesting to me about Batman's arc is that he's a character that has a lot of growth to do. He's a character that's been damaged by things that have happened in his past. Someone whose perspective of relationships is fundamentally warped. But he chooses to change, and even while he's changing, he's still influenced by the negative, right? He's not wholly, it's not a switch that gets flipped. It's a gradual thing. Let's talk about that first thing first, right? The fact that he chooses to change, because that's important, right? You see often characters that don't choose to change at all. They're forced into it, and that's fine. And you could argue that Batman was forced into it. I mean, he was definitely forced to fight alongside these three, and he was forced to come face to face with his actions. But to me, that's not him being forced, because he could have watched the change happening in him and rejected it. But he didn't. But as for the second... Ooh, my gosh. You almost tripped me. But as for the second issue, Batman doesn't instantly know what he's doing. Even after he accepts that he likes these people, that he cares about these people, he still doesn't know what to do with that care. He still screws up and abandons them. See, even after he comes face to face with the fact that he does care about these people, he still needs to take accountability for his actions. Right? The issue isn't just that he's traumatized and toxically masculine. He's not just an immature guy. He's damaged. He needs help. He needs to come to terms and face what he's done to others. That's why the Phantom Zone was such a big deal. That's why him literally watching what he's done to others worked. Because he needed to put himself in others' shoes. He needed to learn empathy. That's why the Phantom Zone was such a big deal. It gave him the opportunity to genuinely reflect, to face the facts of what he's done, and to see how he could do better. That's what I like about Batman's arc in this movie. It would be real easy for him to just have a very linear acceleration, linear growth, where he constantly grows, and he doesn't have any sort of hiccups. But that's not what happens. Batman screws up multiple times. Not just in the beginning, but all throughout. Batman is still affected by the negative, even amongst the positive. And I think that's really compelling. And with that being said, that's all I really have for you on the analysis part of this video. If you haven't seen this movie ever, go watch it. If you have seen this movie, just not in a while, go watch it. It's just a good, fun movie that I love. Please just go watch it. I promise you that it's worth it. But now let's talk about where I found God in this story. And if that doesn't interest you, that's okay. I leave this at the end so I can respect your time and your beliefs by not making you hear about something you don't want to hear about when you clicked on a Lego Batman video. So again, if you want to click off, that's completely fine. You won't miss anything else. Batman's arc is interesting, right? He's a character that has gone through a lot, and he's a character that manages to get to a point where he accepts that he cares about people, right? He cares about Barbara, Dick, and Alfred. He cares about them. Yet, he still ends up abandoning them. He still ends up not able to tell Joker that he cares about him, that he hates him. And that's really interesting. I mean, even after, right, I talked a lot about how the Phantom Zone was that big change in him. Even after the Phantom Zone, he wasn't able to tell Barbara that he was sorry. It's hard to change, to live one way and then to change and live another way, right? That switch up it's hard for everyone. It's hard to overcome trauma and break down your walls. Batman's a character that's been through a lot. It makes sense that he wouldn't be able to just move on and drop that. It makes sense that he would struggle with change, with relationships. It makes sense that he made mistakes, right? This is how people are. Although we can try to change, it's not always going to work out. It's going to be hard and it's going to be a slow process. And this is actually very clear in the Bible. Too often Christians think it's like one and done, right? You say the prayer and then that's it. You're completely different. And The Chosen, which is a great show, even popularized the quote, "I was one way and now I am completely different," that Mary Magdalene says. And there is a lot of truth to that, right? Paul talks about this idea that we become new creations in Christ, that we're completely transformed. And that's true. But there is something else there, right? Because yes, Batman at that point in the movie, where he recognized that he cared about those people, he was different. That was new. He wouldn't have done that earlier in the movie. He was different. He was new. But that doesn't mean he wasn't still affected by the old. Batman's mistake, where he abandoned Barbara, Dick, and Alfred, came from a place of misunderstanding. He didn't understand how relationships work. He didn't understand how his actions can affect people, how how what he was doing was not right. Batman did wrong even though he had been changed. Batman's mistake does not mean that he was not better, that he was somehow back to who he was before. And we're all like that. We all have room to grow. We're all not all the way there yet. I still make mistakes even though I've grown a lot, even though I'm different than I was years ago. And this constant struggle of making mistakes and growth is something that Paul talks about in Romans 7:15 through 23 says this: I do not understand what I do, for what I want to do, I do not do, but what I hate, I do. And if I do what I do not want to do, I agree that the law is good. As it is no longer I myself who do it, but it is sin living in me. For I know that good itself does not dwell in me, that is, in my sinful nature. For I have the desire to do what is good, but I cannot carry it out. For I do not do the good I want to do, but the evil I do not want to do. This I keep on doing. Now if I do what I do not want to do, it is no longer I who do it, but it is sin living in me that does it. So I find this law at work. Although I want to do good, evil is right there with me. For in my inner being I delight in God's law. But I see another law at work in me, waging war against the law of my mind and making me a prisoner of the law of sin at work within me. Right, so just so we're clear, right? Sin is essentially missing the mark. It's failing to do something that you're supposed to do, right? So in this, Paul is essentially saying that he knows what's right, and he acknowledges that he has the potential to do good, and that he knows what's good, and that he has done good before, but he still struggles to do good. And the whole, it's not I that do it, but it is sin in me that does it. That's not like avoiding responsibility. That's not a devil made me do it thing. That's Paul saying that he knows he's better than that. That he knows he's better and yet he still does it, right? So it's not shirking off responsibility. It's more similar to like when people are like, this isn't you. Like, obviously it's you, you know? But basically, the point is, we all screw up, right? Paul screwed up. Paul's acknowledging that he screws up and that he struggles with this because he knows that he can do better. He knows what's good, and yet he doesn't do it. And that's what's interesting about Batman's story, because it kind of shows this, right? Batman screwed up. And I get that this isn't really a one-to-one comparison, because Batman didn't understand how relationships work. I've said that his mistake comes from a lack of understanding, but Paul's making it very clear that he knows what's right. But I do think it's a very similar idea, because even though I believe that Batman's mistake comes from a lack of understanding, that doesn't mean that he didn't also make mistakes that he knew were wrong. For instance, even after he did that, which he clearly thought was right, he still wasn't able to admit that he cared about Joker. He still wasn't able to say sorry to Barbara after he returned from the Phantom Zone. It's clear to me that Batman's mistakes come from both places of not understanding what's right, and from places of still just being trapped in his old ways. And this is how it is for all of us. We make mistakes that we know are wrong, and we make mistakes that we don't know are wrong, but it's okay. We all screw up, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally. But it wasn't too late for Batman, and it's not too late for you. But that's all I have for you guys today. If you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. It really helps me out a lot. I pray each of you has a blessed day. And remember, in order to stealth, you have to hide every part of you, both physically and emotionally. Look over there.